rebuilding. The catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40. We focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, welcome back to episode 52 of the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Today I want to talk about iron therapy. And we just finished doing our longest ever episode interview with the cocky jerk. He's still here. He hasn't left, guys. And something he talked about actually triggered in a good way, not in the bad way, that kind of thing. But something actually I just went through this morning and stuff, and we were talking about just how healthy it is to work out, get the blood flow. We actually talked a little bit more just before this episode about the guy factor and how we need to go back and get it. And you know, to me, that the iron therapy is such a real thing. You know, some people talk about how they go to the gym because they just need it mentally as much as physically, and it's so true. You know, this weekend was a crazy busy weekend for me at the gym. Ran down to Toronto on a Saturday, back that evening to do some business, talk with some powerlifting peeps about the upcoming year, 2018. A lot of great stuff, but at the same time, you know, still running a business, got things going on. I had a couple of hiccups I had to deal with on a couple of subjects that, you know, for everybody, we kind of have these non-negotiables in our life, especially once we start moving things forward, where we're like, you know, I'm pretty open-minded. You know, I'm a pretty cool guy. You know, and I'm obviously, you know, talking about myself, so it's kind of weird. But, you know, I can tolerate a lot. And I have more patience now than ever. And I'm like, if people screw up around me, you know, I'm like, all right, let's fix it. Let's go with it. But there's a couple of non-negotiables I have just about my character, my business, and what I'll allow and what I won't allow. And a couple of things happened this weekend that I had to toe that line on the non-negotiables. And it wasn't easy. It had to be done. First off, and it put me in a state where I don't like to be. I don't like to be in that state where I get angry and I get, you know,
Pushed to be the bad guy?
Pushed to be the bad guy, right? I really don't like that when it happens. But when it does happen, you know, 20 years ago, you know, things would have burst into flames and stuff. So I'm much better with dealing with it. So now that we talked about earlier, something's not working out, I like to deal with it. And a couple non-negotiables happened to the point where I'm like, actually, I'm dealing with it right now. And that's all there is to it. And because of that, it put me in a certain state. And then Saturday, drove down to Toronto, went down with a buddy of mine. Great talk. It was good to hang out together for a bunch of hours. I had a very positive meeting about powerlifting. A couple of things. I had to put my foot down on a couple of things as well that are important to me for the sport and for the business aspect of it. But still positive. Good feedback, great conversations afterward. But then drive back. I'm back at 2 a.m, Sunday morning, sleeping for a bit. And then I'm at the gym, you know, meeting Bryan, you know, to do.
I wouldn't have known. I had no idea that you only had a couple hours.
Yeah, you know, well, you know, pre-workout's a wonderful thing.
Well, yeah,
yes, you fed me some. You fed me some.
Can I offer you some pre-workout?
Yeah.
You had given me some awesome pre-workout by... Should we plug the company?
Yeah. Who was it? I can't remember who we gave it. Dedicated Nutrition. We had some of that stuff, so we pounded that out. It's a little bit aggressive. It's got some amp citrate, some crazy shit in there. Yeah. And then so Bryan wanted to return the favor as I walked in the gym at noon, and it was perfect.
I had no idea.
So it was perfect. So I'm like, yeah, I'll have 17 scoops. Thank you. And end up having a great workout.
Yeah.
And again, that's the power of the atmosphere, right? Bryan's there doing some big deadlifting. Lewis was there working on his bench with me. He was going for a PR that day. You know, I'm ramping up for my meet, and I'm feeling stronger than ever. It's an exciting time, and you know, and channel a little bit of that aggression into that workout as well. But you know, as Bryan said, you couldn't tell because I was in a actually very pumped mood, that kind of thing. Because the atmosphere, again, the importance of the atmosphere, that circle of influence we talked about, who you hang with.
I've had some of my best workouts when I was exhausted.
Well, sometimes you just get that adrenal kick in the other way, right? And then, you know, Sunday, that evening, went out to dinner with the family. And then that night, and I kind of like when everything gets a chance to catch up to you, right? A little bit of fatigue, adrenal dump from the great workout, you know, the non-negotiables I had to deal with and stuff like that.
The adrenal dump from the pre-workout.
Yeah, the adrenal, exactly. That happens in the toilet as well, too. There is always an adrenal dump as well. Because you don't buy pre-workout, you just rent it, right? Yeah. But sort of in the Sunday evening, right? It's kind of, you know, everything just sort of came caught up to me, and sometimes it's when we're quietest that we hear the things that, we can't hear when we're busy. And, so it started me thinking, and then, like anybody else, I don't think it was a self-doubt thing, but it was like, Jesus, I'm banging my head against the wall sometimes, you know what I mean? And I don't like to have to be that guy that has to deal with the non-negotiables. I don't like that person, but it had to come out. And then at the end of the day, I want to run a great company. And we have a lot of great things happening. There's so much coming at me that, I want to do a good job. Yeah. And I want to sit there and make all these hours I'm doing be for a reason. Do you know what I mean? So when I got up this morning, I was tired. Right? I took my son into school, and then I was meeting one of my training partners, Eric, for a workout. And when I walked in, I walked in not my normal self, right? That kind of thing. And not angry, not that it was just like, I'm just a little worn, right? Mentally, physically, and stuff like that. I didn't even take a pre-workout, and I just started, we warmed up, and we had a back workout. And I told Eric, here's what I'd like to do today, that kind of stuff. And then I was pretty quiet, which is not like me. And then as we got into it, Eric's also my business coach as well. So, we started talking about some different things. And, I ended up having a pretty good workout, and I felt a lot better over it. And I remember actually leaving the gym. I was sitting in my car behind the gym for about 20 minutes, just catching up on some emails and texting. And I just texted Eric, and I said, hey, dude, listen, great workout. Sorry it wasn't myself, that kind of thing. And, a minute or two, he fires back. He goes, hey, Kurt, at the end of the day, you can always just be yourself around me and stuff. And that was great. That was refreshing, right? But, the mood I had an hour earlier versus the mood I had after the workout was radically different. And that's that iron therapy. To me, that's what's so beneficial of just getting a workout in, because, what was on my mind didn't change, but my perception changed a little bit because of the chemical endorphins, because of the release, getting some of that frustration out of my system. We were doing sets of 8, and every set I just got going heavier. I got heavier to the point where I'm just stacking one of the machines. And I wasn't like screaming and yelling. That's not my style. But I was like, you know what? I need this. I really, really need this right now, and I want to drive it into the fucking reps, and I want to do a great set, and I want my back to get pumped, and then we finished with biceps. So at the end, I felt just jacked. I felt fantastic, and it did a lot to twist that around, right? And you can relate to that, obviously, as well, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then, so my big thing is, and you were talking about that as well, is about getting back in, and, 2 years ago where you were, things were just crazy, and how working out is just, the universal theme is just working out and getting a chance to put it out, leave it on the floor.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot to be said. And something you said just before we talked about this is even going to the guy factor. Something that's lost just on a lot of guys is we don't have the opportunity to deal with these emotions. We don't have an opportunity to have the physical, warrior, that we just chased down an animal. We just fought a foe. We've been programmed for thousands and thousands of years to do that. And we've removed that from our lives, in a generation or two. And I don't think our bodies are able to process that change. It's been too fast. And I think that's like you said earlier, you think it's killing men.
Well, I was just mentioning briefly, I'd seen something a few years ago, it was some type of documentary how all the male species on the planet are dying because all the
like dying sooner, like we all are going to die.
Or the species are dying off,
right?
Because all the pollutants in the air, they're called xenoestrogens, right? They mimic estrogen.
Okay.
So a lot of men, as they get into their 30s, 40s, we know that after 25, that's when the testosterone levels start to drop. But when you're overcome by xenoestrogens, so like I can, you see a lot of guys, 30s, 40s, 50s, who have, the excess chest fat, massive bellies.
Yep.
When I don't mean to put everyone into this category, but if I'm out at a bar grabbing a meal, which isn't too often when I'm dieting,
right?
And you see someone who's just voraciously cheering for this team and they're just pounding back the beer and the wings.
Yeah.
And I look at them and say, is it so much that I don't know if they almost realize that they're vicariously living through that person. Because
do they love that team that much, or they just their hormones are fired up and they're excited, and
or their hormones are suppressed?
Well, suppressed, but they need that outlet, right? And they wish they were that guy, that warrior on the field. They wish they were that hero. They wish they were that, and this is their chance to be as close as they can to it.
Yeah.
Because either they're just can't do it or aren't putting themselves in that position and stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot to be said for being able to go out there and still, work with how we're hardwired. We're hardwired, again, to be hunters and gatherers.
Yeah.
We're hardwired to fuck. We're hardwired to fight. We're hardwired to deal with things. And the problem is that we don't have these situations anymore. Everything's given to us. Everything is too easy, right? And there's so much, other things that are filling our time.
Well, you can look at it this way. When I was a kid, we had one vehicle. There was no cell phones. There was no internet.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people work so hard to keep up with the Joneses. That's also another factor why people...
The stress of that.
Yeah, I think, stress we know affects your hormones too, your cortisol and everything, and affects your stomach
stress,
fat.
That mental stress, right?
So it's about men getting to be men still and holding on to that as you get older. So for a lot of men, it might be going hunting. It might be going to a Slayer concert.
Yeah.
It might be, some guys might take some MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something, or boxing.
Or weight training.
Or for some of us too, it's just going to the gym and saying, "Hey, you are going to challenge yourself today."
Yeah, it's getting that extra set, that extra rep. And I think something that you touched on too is the fact that we need to find those things. And when we say about being men, I'm not talking about being the chauvinist. I'm not talking about being an asshole. It's not about putting women down. It's nothing.
No.
It's the furthest thing from the truth. And I think maybe things have swung a little too far the other way because of the things were like that. My wife is my equal, sometimes even higher,
I
the
agree,
situation, stuff like that. At the end of the day, I think it's super important to have that, but at the same token, there's certain things that just men need to be men again, right? And if it's something, even if it's for standing up for something, taking care of ourselves so we can take care of others, standing up for what's right mentally, physically, whatever, having those non-negotiables and saying, hey, I'm not going to tolerate this, right? I grew up in a country, we never saw, I hadn't seen a black person until I was like 16 or 15. There was a lot of, bigotry and racism, and not overt. It was more just because we weren't used to it. And here I am, 25, 30 years later, I'm married to a minority. I have mixed children, and I couldn't imagine my life being any other way than that. So it's not about, being that He-Man guy who just puts others down. And that's to me, that's not a man.
No.
That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about, though, dealing with our biological essence as well. We're men. We're meant to pee standing up. We're meant to do certain things. And I think the more we remove that from our bodies and our lives, I think the more it throws our whole system into chaos.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I think we need the fight.
We need the outlet.
We need the outlet. We need the fight. Because that's what's going to make our body want to produce. It was a really cool thing. We'll finish with this, is that there was a study done, and they measured testosterone before and after situations in blood testing and stuff like that. Yeah. And they actually did one where they had guys in a bar, and then a guy, an alpha male, a true alpha male will walk in, big, strong, jacked or whatever. And then they, just did his thing, for an hour or whatever. And then they measured blood after that. And there was testosterone released by half the men because an alpha male had stepped in. And the instinct of of half the guys was like their bodies chemically started to fire up to deal with a potential threat.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real fucking thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And I think because we're sitting down and we have places like workplaces where, you can't be this and you can't be that. And, you made me feel a little weird about myself and that kind of stuff just because you're being you. I'm like, what the fuck has that become about? Right. Yeah. That kind of thing. It's funny. My kids have grown up seeing big, strong men all their lives.
Yeah.
And I see the difference. They're not, they have a different mannerism about them when they're in a room full of people.
Yeah.
The confidence and stuff like that, right? But that was a really cool, we'll have to find out, because I thought that was really, really sharp, and I get that. We've all walked into a room or been in a room and someone walks in, all of a sudden we perk up, right? I bounced for years, and you sort of build that. And there'll be 9 times out of 10, I could tell if something's going to happen way before because a vibe changed. Something happened. That shit's real.
No, absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And I think that's what's important to understand, is that that's what we're meant to do. And I think being strong and being fit is what we're supposed to do in preparation for that.
Absolutely.
To be prepared.
I had a friend of mine, he asked me not long ago, he said, he's getting into his 40s, and he said, so how do I know if I'm having testosterone problems? I said, well, you'll know. I said, the sad thing is a lot of men don't realize it, but I said, first off, you'll be tired. You'll wake up in the morning, you don't feel like you really were rested. I said, you won't be ambitious, you'll be depressed. Yep. But I said, one of the things is you should wake up in the morning or after a nice nap with a rock hard erection.
Yep.
And I said, do you have that every day? He said, well, not every day, but I'm okay. I said, no, you're not.
Yeah.
That's a big sign of, and the urge to do sexual things, when that diminishes, well, that's a sign of something too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are key things, right? But I think as men, today's men, also has to be able to control those things as well, right?
Yeah.
It's not a license to be a fucking idiot out there and
No.
trying to cause shit all the time and bang, everyone,
but if
everyone's
you go
life and stuff. But
if you go weeks without having any urges, or a week, or if you're okay just once a week or once every 2 weeks, there's a problem there.
well, I think at the end of the day, we're all wired, certainly. And I think it's about how were we at our peak of our testosterone.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the peak of our testosterone, if we were like,
I'm at my peak now.
well, there you go, right? That's right. And his wife's going to listen to this and go, no, you're not. But anyway, at the end of the day, it's all about what we were like in our peak. What we were like at our best. And then that's my frame of reference all the time, right? So, at 49, am I the same as I was when I was 21? No, but I'm not too far off.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of thing. And those are things that I think are important. But I think you said something, too, is that people get caught up in other things that they don't fucking realize these things have changed.
Yeah.
Until it becomes, it's never too late, but until it becomes a situation where by the time you realize it, it's pretty far gone.
Well, it's like in it's like in that other podcast when we were talking about diet and eating.
Yeah.
We get so used to eating a shitty diet that we feel so horrible. We get used to it and we think that's normal, and it's not.
And then when we start eating clean,
Yeah.
what happens is then you'll have your cheat night or your cheat meal, and then you have that food hangover the next day. And I tell people, well, that's how you were feeling every day. You just got so used to the boiling frog syndrome, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you put a frog in a pot of water and slowly turn the heat up over time. The frog will never jump out. It'll boil to death. Because it just gets used to its environment, And then once that water's boiling, that frog's dead. You go to throw another frog in there, that frog will jump right out, right? Don't do it, guys. We'll get in trouble with
I hope you're not. I hope
with
you
the
didn't,
animal people.
You didn't develop that theory on your own
exactly.
or something.
All right, we need more frogs. We need more frogs. But you know what? It's so cool. It's so true. Right? We get used to what's happening until we finally fucking snap or something happens, right? Then we have to sit back, and then it's really hard to make those changes. And I think that's another reason why a lot of guys won't make changes, because it becomes to a point where they know they have to make these things, but there's it feels so overwhelming. I mean, and we're sitting there, my life sucks, my marriage sucks, my kids suck. And you know what? Odds are most of that isn't true. You suck.
Yeah.
Right? And your perception of those things change. And maybe the other stuff has gotten bad because you've gotten bad, but you can work on correcting those things. But it's the small things. And and how do we start, guys? Workout.
Absolutely.
Get the fucking gym. Small workout to start. Get going. Get the blood flowing. Get the adrenaline. Because when you have a physical demand, your body will call on your hormone production as well.
I'm still freaked out by the frog thing. I'm like, Kurt does look a little like Richard Kuklinski here. The Iceman.
Oh, the Iceman. Is that who that was? That's pretty. That's. I don't know if that gets me more views. Yes. At the end of the day, though, right? It's just a really cool concept. So, guys, it's all about the iron therapy. That's what I wanted to cover real quick. Is that if you're feeling down, you're feeling blue, head on down to Hostile, have a great workout. Go to your gym, hit the floor, do 50 push-ups or 5, whatever you can handle. Get that blood flow going, guys. That's the magic. Make it happen.
Absolutely. I also want to say too, for a lot of lifters out there, sometimes if you're kind of hitting the wall or you're not sure, like I used to do a lot of what was called instinctive training, but it's really nice now. Like, when I make the trip to the hangar gym, it's worth it for your training because I'm getting some pointers, and like Kurt was talking about training philosophies and concepts that he uses that I've heard of, but I didn't. He kind of explained yesterday. I'm like, wow. Let's apply that. Yeah, let's see how that's going to work.
Well, I think it's opening yourself up to other things, right?
Yes.
And again, that's part of that environment. It's part of being around somewhere where you can't help but get a little smarter and a little better because the environment is a little smarter and a little better than what you are.
Or the proverbial, the big fish in the small pond. If you're in a little town and you're the biggest fish, you got to go to where the bigger fish are to learn more and to be motivated.
We said that before. I'd rather be the dumbest person in the room than be the smartest person in the room. Because if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm at a ceiling, right? Or if I'm in a situation where I'm a little uncomfortable, where I am compared to my circle, it's going to want to motivate me to be better,
Absolutely,
right? To feel like I belong, that I deserve to be there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to keep this one shorter for today. Head on over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review. Please check us out at hostilegear.com. Use the code Silverback to get 20% off an amazing hoodie, or even better, a t-shirt, or what works really well? A t-shirt with a hoodie over it.
A special pot for frogs.
Well, and a special pot for frogs. We're going to come out with our boiling frog line. Stay tuned. Watch for that. What kind of trouble can we get in with that, right? And on today's video, guys, I'll talk to you guys later.